Hello, we are continuing to talk about the Cold War and specifically the Korean War. We are still in the textbook. It is Prentice Hall, United States History. You can find a newer edition of this at the National Emergency Archives, or the National Emergency Library. Today we're going to be talking about the fight in Korea. So Americans fight in Korea. The focus of attention turned to the peninsula of Korea, separated from northeast China by the Yalu River. Once controlled by Japan, Korea had been divided into two independent countries by the United States and the Soviet Union after World War II. The dividing line was set at the 38th parallel of latitude. In North Korea, the Soviets installed a communist government and equipped its armed forces. The United States provided smaller amounts of aid to non-communist South Korea. North Korea invades South Korea. American occupation troops remained in South Korea until June of 1949. Their departure coincided with the communist victory in China. Soon after, North Korea began a major military buildup. On June 25, 1950, North Korean forces attacked across the 38th parallel. The 90,000 North Korean troops were armed with powerful tanks and other Soviet weapons. Within days, the Northerners overtook the South Korean capital city of Seoul and set out after the retreating South Korean army. U.S. forces defended South Korea. President Truman remembered how the policy of appeasement had failed to check the German aggression that sparked World War II. Determined that history would not repeat itself, he announced that the United States would aid South Korea. Within days, the UN Security Council unanimously voted to follow Truman's lead, recommending that the members of the United Nations furnish such assistance to the Republic of Korea as may be necessary to repel the armed attack and to restore international peace and security in that area. Undoubtedly, the Soviet Union would have used its veto power to block the UN resolution if it had been present for that vote. However, it had been boycotting Security Council sessions because the UN had refused to seat Mao's People's Republic of China. Truman did not ask Congress for a formal declaration of war as required by the Constitution. However, supported by the UN resolution, Truman ordered American troops who were stationed in Japan to move to South Korea. The soldiers were mainly occupation troops who had not been trained for forced marches in monsoon rains or heavy combat in the rice paddies, nor did they have the military equipment needed to stop the invasion. Soon they joined their South Korean allies in retreating to the southeast corner of the peninsula near the city of Busan. There, the Allies held fast. As fresh supplies and troops arrived from Japan, soldiers from other UN countries joined the American and South Korean forces. Macarthur drives back the North Koreans. By September of 1950, the UN forces were ready to counterattack. General Douglas MacArthur, the World War II hero, had a bold plan to drive the invaders from South Korea. He suspected that the rapid advance of North Korean troops had left North Korea with limited supply lines. He decided to strike at this weakness by launching a surprise attack on the port city of Incheon, well behind enemy lines. Because Incheon was such a poor landing site, with swift currents and treacherous tides, MacArthur knew the enemy would not expect an attack there. MacArthur's bold gamble paid off handsomely. On the morning of September 15, 1950, U.S. Marines landed at Incheon and launched an attack into the rear guard of North Koreans. Communist forces began fleeing for the North Korean border. By October of 1950, the North Koreans had been driven north of the 38th parallel. With the retreat of North Korean forces, U.S. officials had to decide what to do next. Should they declare their UN mandate accomplished and end the war, or should they send their forces north of the 38th parallel and punish the communists for the invasion? Truman was concerned about the action China would take if the United States carried the war into North Korea. Chinese leaders publicly warned the Americans not to advance near its borders, but MacArthur did not take this warning seriously. He assured Truman that China would not intervene in the war. Based on this advice, the United States pushed a resolution through the UN calling for a unified, independent, and democratic Korea. China forces a stalemate. Highly confident, MacArthur attacked north of the 38th parallel. Despite mountainous terrain and freezing temperatures by Thanksgiving, the Allied advance had reached the Chinese border at the Yalu River. Then, on November 25, 1950, some 300,000 Chinese soldiers attacked the South Korean and U.S. positions. Badly outnumbered, the U.S. troops were forced back. With China now in the war, the United States confronted a major land war in Asia. It was possible that this war could not be won without huge commitments of troops and even atomic weapons. Truman steadfastly ruled out both of these options. MacArthur, who favored an invasion of China, was enraged. He distrusted Truman's policy of a limited war fought to achieve only specific goals. As a soldier, MacArthur favored total victory. Unable to sway Truman, the general sent a letter to the House Republican leader attacking the president's policies. After the letter became public, Truman fired MacArthur for insubordination. There was a huge outcry in the United States, and MacArthur returned home a national hero. So, checkpoint. How did President Truman react to the North Korean invasion of South Korea? And Truman's reaction is that he is going to divert troops from Japan and try to fight and push those North Korean forces back, which he's going to be able to do. And then eventually they're going to push into North Korea, which is going to cause China to get involved in the war. And that is going to just make the situation worse. So that wraps up that part of the Korean War. We are going to finish up in the last video talking about the lasting effects of this war. Until then, stay safe, and hopefully I get to see you guys soon. Bye.